Wonderful. We're on. Hi, everybody. And I know it's been a while since you've seen one of our videos. I'm Christine Harrell. I'm the Executive Director of Virginia Community Yoga. And we have a lovely, lovely guest today. So honored to be able to interview her today and allowing her to share her journey as well. This video is definitely raw and unedited. So you may have some bloopers. We may dive a bit deep. Some of us may shed some tears. So get those tissues if need to. If you could definitely relate to our interviewees out there. I want to introduce you to this wonderful lady. Her name was Melinda, and we had met in the Norfolk City Jail. She was an inmate in there, and I met her because she joined the Virginia Community Yoga Jail Project, joined the class and whatnot. And she actually was, I guess you could say, one of my longest students because she went through 2 semesters of the yoga training. And it was funny. She'll probably explain a little bit more about how she got into the class. By just watching, in a sense. You're right, Melinda. So yeah. I want to say welcome to Melinda, and just thank you. Thank you for jumping on and showing a certain side of you, being vulnerable in this position right now, you know. And the reason why we do these interviews is so people don't feel ashamed of their own journey. You know, to befriend their journey, even though the journey could be very rough and very shameful, but there's other people out there that could definitely relate. So this is the reason why we do these interviews, is for everybody to heal, that we're all pretty much different journeys, but we in the same boat, in a sense, you know, like the same feelings of love, or feeling ashamed or joyful or sadness, different stories, but still the same feelings involved. Yeah. So again, I want to welcome Melinda to this interview. Thank you so much for coming and
my pleasure.
Being here. So right now, just real quick, just to break some ice and stuff. So, what are you doing, like job-wise and whatnot? We'll come back in full circle about this, but like, what do you do? How many kids you have? Just, you know, simple stuff, just to break the ice of who you are.
Well, I'm Melinda Ireland. I am a hairstylist, and I just, believe it or not, during this COVID madness, I got a job working with a wonderful, wonderful woman who owns a salon, small, and it's just 2 of us, and it's a breath of fresh air for me. This person has been a mentor to me without even knowing it, and without trying, I think. But anyway, I could go on and on about her. So I've got this great job, and I'm getting clients, and so I'm able to be employed. And I walked in the salon the day that we were. First of all, I wanted to say this. I walked in and to do the interview, and the first thing I said, before we go any further, look, I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. I've been in jail. Recovery's my priority, and I didn't know where it came from. It just came out like that, and she's like, "Okay, let's go move on." And I was floored because I waited, you know, months to even call her.
Yeah.
Because of fear of judgment.
Yeah.
And
we'll definitely touch base on that. I think that's a struggle that a lot of people have coming out of incarceration. I know with some certain family members, it was one of those things, and sometimes we hit that brick wall. But we'll definitely come back around that. And how many kids do you have?
Oh, yes. I have 3 children. My
They're beautiful,
son,
by the way.
They are. My son, he'll be 22 in August, and my twin girls are 15.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. My question to you, can you paint that picture before, how you were raised and all that before that place in your life that you were incarcerated, when it really got into the nitty gritty of your life? So if you could paint a picture to our audience on how your upbringing was, and yeah.
I'm the youngest of 4 daughters. My oldest sister was 18 years older than me. My mother and father were in their mid-30s when they had me. My father had just retired from the Navy, so that therefore I grew up in Norfolk. Was born in 1970, so that kind of puts the time frame down. My mother was ill all my life. She and I didn't find out till many years later that she was also mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
She had progressive emphysema. She worked in a bus station. She also smoked cigarettes. She was the mom that loved me but was distant.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, I think he showed me a lot of attention when I was very young, but as I got older, he, it just became distant.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, with my mom's illness, I was basically very unsupervised.
Right.
My older sisters, had their own lives, and they, 2 of them didn't live at home, and the one that did, she worked, and that was her escape from the
Mm-hmm.
home life.
Right.
I basically took care of my mother. I had duties and chores that a 9-year-old really shouldn't have, as far as like emptying your mom's bedpan as soon as you get home from school, or
Yeah.
changing the sheets and things like that. And it was just normal for me. I didn't think anything of it. I knew there was something different, as far as with the way my friends were raised, but that was my normal.
Yeah.
By the time I was 10, I tried my first drink, and I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the effects.
Right.
I didn't, start drinking every day or using drugs every day, but I became very curious.
Yeah.
And when I was 14, I met a guy who became my boyfriend for about 7 years, but he was 9 years older than me. And my parents didn't, I don't know, I guess because of their generation, I don't
Yeah.
know. They didn't see that this is wrong.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't an abusive relationship. I was pretty mature for my age.
Yeah.
In
You had to
school, I
grow
had
up really fast, knowing you had to take care of your mom. Yeah.
exactly. And in school, I had never had any problems academically. So I think people just assumed that because of those factors that I was older than what I
Yeah.
was, and
Right.
really I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. So.
Fast forward
Mm.
to I turned 18, and in April of my senior year, my mother passed away.
Mm.
Um, at that point, something tripped in my head, and I was like, I don't have anyone to be accountable to anymore.
Right.
My dad's not really involved in my life. He's just there to pick me up or give me money or whatever. So the alcohol and drug use got really heavy.
Mm.
For a few years, there was a lot. I got a job because I wasn't able to get a job in my teenage years because I had to be home with my mom.
Right.
Um, so I got a job when I was 19. I worked for this wonderful lady at a large hotel, and I worked my way up to front desk supervisor. And but problems, things were getting out of hand with the party scene and things like
So
that.
you were
And
18 at this time when you okay. Wow.
yeah, yeah, and back then 18, you were legally able to drink.
Mm.
So, it was no problem for me. I remember going after work to 50-cent mixed drinks and driving home,
Yeah.
I don't,
So your
it's
boyfriend
crazy.
at that time when you were 14, did you end up marrying him or did you?
No,
Oh,
no, we stayed together for 7 years. So I
uh-huh,
was with him right up until I was about 21
uh-huh.
when, I was out of hand. I, started to drink and use more and basically started to get it promiscuous. I wanted to see other guys. I didn't want to be tied down, and he wasn't sealing the deal. So,
You're like,
I,
peace
I,
out.
I
I
broke
can
up
live
with
my
him.
life. Do you feel that because your father was absent in a sense and you had to grow up so fast that your childhood was taken away in a sense, and I guess unconsciously as you gotten older and you had your first taste of a drink at 10, but as you gotten older, using alcohol, drugs, being promiscuous was a unconscious, I guess, thing of trying to take care of some certain kind of pain.
Definitely.
Because now, in hindsight, very similar story. In hindsight, for me, that was definitely my case too, of
Hmm.
that numbing.
Yeah.
But also being
Filling.
young and immature, but it was
Mhm.
that numbing and it felt good, and it tends to escalate after that. So from there, you leave the boyfriend,
Yeah.
you're having the time of your life.
Yeah.
Then
It
you,
got worse after that,
right.
believe me.
And then, so I guess, should I ask this question? Is this when the drugs started to come in before you've had your kids, before you had
Mm.
your husband and whatnot?
Yes, all of my children were born when I was sober.
Mm-hmm.
Um, while I was using, I did not have any children. From that boyfriend, I moved on to another older guy, and he was very physically abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard to get away from that
Mm-hmm.
because I also depended on him for my drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Um,
I can relate to that too.
mhm. I finally I got away from him, but I was incarcerated.
Mm.
So I've been
So that was your
incarcerated.
first time around
Hmm.
of being incarcerated because of
Yeah,
drugs. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I went my
And
first
I'm sorry, how old were you then?
23.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I spent my 25th birthday in prison. My first felony conviction, I got 10 years for suspended for drug paraphernalia, basically, is what it is today.
Mm.
And
Wow.
yeah, and I came out angry. I was like, this is not fair. I wasn't offered anything. So, needless to say, 6 months later, I violated that
Yeah.
probation and with more drugs. And I went back to jail for another 2 years. And I was just so lost and reaching out, but didn't know what to reach for.
Right.
And, my dad died right before I went to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't really know how to ask my sisters for help because they were all older than me. I don't know. I didn't know how to ask for help back then.
Did you feel like they kind of written you off because you were?
I don't, I think maybe I thought that. I was with
Yes.
the shame and the guilt. I didn't want them to know who I was becoming, who I
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. It's so
I was ashamed.
crazy how we're in that situation and our family is there to help, but it's hard for us to ask because our own perspective, our own ego, our own shame.
And
And
honestly, I don't think I was ready
yeah,
to quit.
yeah,
Although I was crying out on the inside, but I really wasn't ready. I just wanted some more relief, you
Yeah.
know. I didn't
And at
know.
this time, did you have your kids or
No,
no? Okay.
no, this is
Okay.
before kids.
Before kids. Okay, before kids.
So after I did the violation time, which was 2 years, I got out, and I was sober for a little while, and I kind of, but I didn't know what to do. And so I used again, and then my probation officer was having no more of it, and she sent me to a homeless shelter that required me to go to an intense outpatient program.
Yeah.
And I got a lot out of it. But the one suggestion that I didn't follow was to not date anyone in the program. And so that's where I met my son's father.
Right.
And yeah, and he was sober too. And eventually, you know, we had sex, and I got pregnant with my son. I stayed sober. He did not. He relapsed about, I was 6 months pregnant, and I didn't know him in actively drinking, and he was violent too.
Right.
And I left him completely for good when my son was 3 months old.
Wow.
Um,
That is so tough to do, having a little one and making that choice as mom, and you're looking at this baby is like, I need to do this. This is not healthy, but having a support that was, and I guess in your mind was that your support system was this abusive man. And,
yeah,
you know, yeah. Wow.
that was the time, you know, when I reached out for help from my family.
Beautiful.
And I went to my oldest sister's house, and ironically, that's where I live now, is with her daughter. It's full circle. Here we
Right.
go.
Exactly. And then from there, you have beautiful girls. So after your son was born, did you relapse at any time, or?
I did. I did. I was so lost and just so overwhelmed that I relapsed again, and it was worse this time from any. And I really wanted to. I didn't want to die, I don't think, but I wanted to erase the fact that I brought this child into this world, and that, you know, I'm so broken. And during that relapse is when I met my now husband, who is deceased last year. I met my husband. He was a drinker, and I met him, and he made me feel safe. He was a friend first, but, you know, we drank together, but we had some deep discussions during this. And so you know, we talked about God, we talked about life, and you know, we kind of connected on a emotional level finally. And he had some time to do for an old DUI, and he got picked up. And I was like, at that point, because I didn't want to be tied down, I was like, yay, I can go out and I can do this thing and keep getting tore up and just try to forget.
Numb the
everything.
pain. Numb everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a month later, I got arrested for a petty larceny, and I was so sick in jail, just from drinking every day, using drugs every day. I was just so sick, and I started just crying out. And I got a letter from him. He was in another jail, and he found me, and he's like, call me, I'm getting out, call me at my sister's. And I'm like, no, I ain't taking this serious. And I did. And he was like, he asked me to call him every day.
Aww.
And I started calling him every day, and he came to see me twice a week. And I was like, okay, well, maybe, you know, maybe there's something to this.
Right.
And so he asked me to marry him while I was in jail. I married him. And from there, we started a life. And we stayed sober for 13 years. I mean, we both accumulated double digits.
Yeah.
And I got pregnant, surprisingly, with twins on birth control. You know, and they were just a blessing. So
A handful
much.
of joy.
That's a whole nother story.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it leads up. Your life has led up where we met at the jails, but
Mm-hmm.
when did it hit, I guess, rock bottom with this new man of 13 years, twins, where it landed you back into jail? Where did it seem like everything was falling apart, in a sense, in your eyes?
I was fast forward to the first relapse of, my new life. I had
What was that trigger? The trigger to... Mm-hmm.
I was exhausted emotionally, physically, spiritually. I was a human doing. I at that point thought that if I put all of these things together, if I can just do all of this, then I will be perfect. Everything will work out. And
Right.
it was.
Right.
It was not working out.
Right.
I was at a point in my life, how old am I now? I was 43, and I was hanging on by my fingernails because I didn't have anyone in my life anymore that could relate to sobriety. Everyone in my life was new friends who had no idea about my past.
Yeah.
And I didn't want them to know.
Right.
Everyone knew that I had a past, but I wasn't willing to share it.
Yeah.
I was so shame-based that I figured if I put all of these activities in my life, if I put all of these accomplishments in my life, everything looked good on the outside, that it would be okay. And it wasn't. I was crumbling inside.
Yeah.
And my husband, he was a different breed because he was also dry. And I felt like it was my responsibility to make him happy. So I was very over responsible.
Yeah.
And not responsible enough for my own happiness. And so one day, the kids were just going crazy. I had done all of this, household stuff, make this great dinner. It was an Easter Sunday. I had gone to church that day, taught children's church, and I was breaking, and I asked my husband for some help or something, and he acted like he was getting ready to help, and then he sat back down and watched the basketball game, and something clicked in my head, and I just said, that's it. And I picked up my keys and my purse, and I went to the store, and I bought alcohol, and I drank it all, and it wasn't enough because that wasn't the answer.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
And I went and I scored some drugs, and it was that easy. And so the cycle started. I was a first-time business owner. We owned our house. I had all of these things, and it was nothing.
Yeah. It was nothing because you didn't have the happiness within.
Inside.
I think that is the biggest thing everybody goes to. I think everybody that watches this can relate with that. We tend to find the happiness outside of ourselves. And I've always told in the class, happiness always starts within, peace starts within. And it's that loss. We get lost into everyday struggle, and we don't realize what our self-worth is. Oops.
Sorry.
You're fine. You're good. So, yeah, and then our perspective of life and everything. Oh, everything is falling down behind you.
Trying to get comfortable because I'm holding the phone because nothing else was working. So
you're all good, babe. Like I said, this is raw and unedited. We're real people staying in real homes.
This is my daughter's picture too. And when she sees this, she's going to be cracking up.
So there's always this joy in tense situations, some
Mm.
happiness in tense situations, just like this, getting
Yeah.
interviewed and things are just doing its own thing. But
And it's okay.
right. And so going back to your story, and it is, I mean, I think everybody's feeling that right now and I think during this COVID time, I'm hoping that people are taking that chance, especially those that have
Yeah.
lost their jobs or whatever, is taking the chance to look within and saying, what is my worth? What do I really want to do in life?
Yeah.
Where's my happiness? Where's my joy? I know I've been reflecting on that, in this
Mhm.
time. But so I mean, so you started using. How old
Yeah.
were your girls? And your son was with you at this time as well, right?
Yes. Yes. Everybody, we were all together.
Mhm.
When I started using, they were 9.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very long before I was in jail. I couldn't pay the rent at my salon anymore.
Mhm.
Um, so I resorted to going in stores and shoplifting.
Right.
And I went to jail. Um,
For
my
okay.
family, at home, my husband didn't want my kids to know where I was at first. And that didn't set right with me, but I understood because he was the one at home with them.
Mhm.
And he explained to them that I was away getting help.
So
Um,
how long were you incarcerated then?
that time, 14 months.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And when I came home, I had found out some things that were very disturbing to me. And I was also very ashamed because the area I lived in was a rural area. And basically, if everybody doesn't know your business, they think they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was playing in my head that,
So you
what are
seem
people
to be the
thinking?
talk of the town kind of thing.
I was very concerned about what people thought about me
Mm-hmm.
and their judgments. And it was like a weight on my chest. It took a while, but I started using again. And my husband was drinking by then.
Mm-hmm.
He relapsed while I was in jail the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell his story now because he's not here, and I can give my perspective on it. I'm not going to go into what he was going through or anything like that. But the fact is that he started drinking when I was in jail, and with him, it was okay with him for me to drink with him. But that's not Melinda.
Yeah.
Melinda drinks for another reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it wasn't long before I violated probation and I was back in jail. And that time I went through a program in the jail. But I don't think I was ready. And
Mm-hmm.
it was because when I entered the program, I had reservations
Right.
about it. So I completed the program and was released from jail.
Right.
Um,
So by this
once,
time, your kids are there. They're like not, well, 10, 11 maybe. So you've
yeah,
already been incarcerated twice.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And
So,
from,
they,
from the
they've gone
mother's
through,
perspective, because we have a lot of moms that I've met and we touch on this, but from a perspective of the mom being incarcerated, knowing that you're going through this stuff personally, can you explain the feeling every time you got released, all your kids went back into incarceration, get released, seeing your kids, that feeling inside of you? That did you feel like I'm failing again? I might as well just you keep on using I'm failing, I'm failing, I'm failing.
yeah, I can say this, that no one knows guilt and shame like a mother who's addicted to drugs
Mm-hmm.
and has been in jail and left their children, because that is abandonment, that is abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And then so there's that cycle of guilt and shame. um s- mm, I
I know it brings up a lot of emotion and
yeah, because when I looked at my kids, it was like my mind would say, "You're too young to understand this," and I didn't have the words to explain myself, and I just felt this void because you know, even my kids would say, "Mom, it's okay. It's not your fault." Yes, it was. It was my fault. Um, I didn't cope with things very well. I didn't do what was prescribed in the beginning when I first got clean and sober, and that was to stay in touch with people who are using, people who are clean. And that we'll wrap that up today with what I'm doing now.
yeah.
And this is part of it. This is part of me staying clean and sober is like you said, being vulnerable and exposing all of this,
Yeah.
because my shame hates exposure.
Yeah. It sure does. And what we
Yeah.
tend to do is take the shame and dig it even deeper into us.
Yes. And think that it's not a part of me.
Exactly.
And it is.
Yes. So
yes.
thank you for sharing that, Melinda. So throughout your whole life, how many times have you been incarcerated?
I can't even count, Christine.
Yeah.
I can tell you how many felonies I have. I think it's 16 felonies.
Wow.
I can say that for all the times I've been incarcerated, it's never been more than a little over 2 years at a time. I can probably, let's see, 3, 5, 6, 7. So about 7 years of my life I've spent incarcerated.
And how many years of your life with your kids? How many years did you serve when you had your kids that your kids didn't see you?
Right at 3.
3 years.
Yes.
And that's starting at when they were like 11 or 12 years old.
Starting at 9.
9. Wow.
Yeah. And
the missing, I guess also the guilt of.
And let's not forget my son. The girls were 9 and he was 15.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So they were both pivotal ages, turning points for both of them.
And real quick, how's the relationship now?
The relationship is it's as good as it can be.
Yeah.
I don't have custody of my children right now. It's the hardest thing in my life I had to do, but I was incarcerated when my husband passed away. So I had to sign over custody to a wonderful couple who have been in their lives all their life.
Right.
They're godparents, and
yeah. Wonderful.
For now, it's the best place for them to be. I want to say I want my kids right now, but I know I have to accept that right now that's not going to happen.
But you do have this relationship with them,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like it gets better. Every time I talk to you, you always have a beautiful story, and it is a rocky road, but it only could get better as the more and more that you heal yourself, because it starts with us, dealing with our traumas. I think a lot of our programs are wonderful programs to help in that moment, in a sense, and how to get better in the future. But I've also noticed is that we all deal with this thing called trauma.
Yes.
If you can't deal with that thing called trauma and face it head on and say, wow, this is what I was dealt as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And it is your responsibility to heal that. And having those programs in place are very important. And I think that was the biggest thing doing the jail project, being in there with you women, was all of us was healing, including myself, because you guys could relate to my own story, that we all had to figure out that trauma and whatnot. So before you entered the time I met you in jail, I know you told me the story of the last time you used and you were in the whole 7-Eleven thing.
Yeah.
And that's when you were sent. If you want to tell that story.
Yeah.
If you.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm trying to figure out where to begin. I'll just start with that morning. That morning, I had been drinking all night, around the clock. My husband would drink till he passed out and then wake up the next morning. But me, I was, and it happens. Some alcoholics drink. There's lots of different alcoholics, but for me, I drank all night because each time I woke up, I didn't want to feel reality
Mhm.
of my situation.
Mhm.
So I got up that morning, and first I was, trying to get better so that I could go be productive and do some hair.
Mhm.
And I knew what I needed, and my husband and I got into a huge fight. I left. I took my son. He drove me in his car because mine was not working. He took me somewhere, and I was not telling him everything. I was like, okay, take me here, and I was just kind of um, keeping it secret what I was doing, and I met someone that I didn't even know, and I handed them money, and I said, could you bring me some drugs? And he said, okay. So I trusted this person with my money, and he came back, he brought the drugs, and I used a very small amount and passed out.
Mm.
When I woke up, I couldn't wait to finish it.
Mm.
That was the inside of me,
Mhm.
the drive that I was, I wanted to crush that argument that I had this morning. I wanted to
Mhm.
forget what I was doing. I didn't have the will to die, but I just wanted all of that to go away.
Right.
Um, so I had to go somewhere else to use the rest of my drugs, and I did. I told my son, okay, do you need anything from inside the store? And he said, yeah, bring me a drink. And so I go into the store, and I see the bathroom, and I'm like, oh, there's my spot.
Mhm.
And I went in, and I used the rest of the drugs, and I went out. Um, from what I'm told, I was out 20 minutes, and looking back at my text messages from that day, it was about 20 minutes before the police showed up and the firefighters. I couldn't stand because somehow I broke my foot. Um, I was hiding paraphernalia in my bra, and so they were helping me outside, and the police officer saw something in my bra, and they patted me down, and they found it, and they arrested me immediately.
Mm.
I went to jail. I was so sick, um, just from drinking for about 90 days straight.
Mm.
And
Yeah. And I guess
yeah,
that.
I woke up, in this single cell, and I was like, this is it, you know. Finally, I'm alone,
Mhm.
and I started praying to this God that I was very mad at for not getting me out of my addiction, for not, I didn't, or taking the pain away.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like pretty much you've given up on yourself and the God like gave up on you, and that everything you believed in and whatever conditioning of religion you grew
Hmm.
up with, that it failed you in some sense, and that you had nowhere to turn? And I mean, to even have your son even watch you get arrested and all this other stuff, I guess that didn't hit until later, until you
Yeah.
were really sober. Like, oh my God, my son, of how old he was, sees you pass out and then taken right in front of his eyes. And it is a huge healing process.
Yeah.
That. But Yeah, and then you were in Norfolk City Jails, and you were there for how long?
Total, I was there 13 months.
13 months. And I
Hmm.
think that was the time that I met you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I remember, because this was last year sometime, I believe.
No, it was 2018. I just
Oh
thought
my
about that
gosh,
this
look at
morning.
this. This is
Yeah.
just going. Years are just going.
Yeah.
And we remained friends since then. But before we get in all that, one, I want to say thank you for sharing that background story, because it paints a
Mm,
picture for a lot of people who are in it now, who were
yeah.
in it, know somebody that was in it, and it's not the same story, but that setup, that whole setup um, of your journey and whatnot. So what I can remember when I came in, I think that was 2018. So that would probably have been when I first started the jail project.
Hmm.
And I was finishing up with my males block, and then I came in the women's block at that time. My first time with the women, I think it was the first time or the second time. I cannot remember. I can't remember how many times I've been in there already.
Yeah.
So, and then I remember you were, I don't know, remember that title that they gave you when you were allowed to, you're free to,
Oh yeah.
what was it?
I was trustee.
The trustee. That's right.
Yeah,
That is
I
right.
was the barber and the hall trustee. And
So can you tell people how we met? I mean,
yeah.
well, I guess how you saw the class, so our class, and there was called Balance Your Life class.
Hmm.
And if you want to tell people how you got into it, or where that class had met you.
Yeah. So, I was at this time in jail, I was like, okay, I've got to occupy my mind. So I became trustee, I became the barber. Um, and I signed up for programs.
Mm-hmm.
Programs were full, and I knew that I'd probably have to wait. So one night, it was a night class that you were there. One night I was out on the hall with one of my favorite deputies who, she was funny. She treated me like a person. Bottom line is, some are easier to work with and some are not.
Right.
Most of them were great. Um, but anyway, I don't know what I said. I said, "Oh, I want to do that." When I saw you guys just started your practice, and she's like, "You want to do it? Go get your shorts." And I was like, "Is this happening for real? So I can
Because you
do
were out
this?"
there, I remember you were out there mopping, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I saw you in the corner just standing there with the mop. So
yeah. Because I was watching, and yeah, and I was drawn to the class. I don't know why. Well, I do know why now, but um, I was drawn to it, and I was like, "I want to do that." And she says, "Go ahead." I'm like, "Are you sure? I've got work to do. I got this." She's like, so I guess she talked to you. She said that I would be joining you.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in programs yet. This is what's so amazing. But the following week I was in programs.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything I did or anything it's just how things started. It was my willingness
Mm-hmm,
that started happening.
mm-hmm.
And so that first time I met you, I'm like listening, and I'm like, okay, there's more to yoga than postures.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm interested. And it
Because I
was
think when you came in, we were already in the middle of the semester. So
it
you
was
jumped
actually
in.
your second
Was it?
class for the females.
Oh, the
Yes,
second class. Oh, okay.
it was a second
Okay.
class for the females. I only missed one class before that
Okay.
because I looked at my hours.
Okay.
Well, I remember that day. Okay, and I have to share this. You asked the question to ask ourselves, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And to write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? And you instructed us not to say, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a woman, I'm this or I'm that, I'm a hairdresser. Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And that has stuck with me ever since. Who am I?
Yeah.
And also I asked myself, who do I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I know it was the beginning, was when you asked that, because I got that question. I have my notes right here.
You know,
So
my goodness. The
I
whole
keep it all together.
curriculum.
Mhm.
It is. It's very important. And I mean, even myself get lost because we get lost in the titles that we tend to give ourselves and what other people give us.
Yeah.
And when I was teaching, that was something that what I really wanted you guys to realize, that you're not an inmate, you're not a number, you're not da-da-da-da, what we perceive ourselves to be. I'm not
Yeah.
the teacher. I'm a peer of you guys. And to understand where we want to go is really digging deep to, who am I really?
Yeah.
Who is this person in front of me? I've been given so many chances in this life, and every day is another day to make it right, to love yourself a
Yeah.
little bit more. Wonderful. Oh, well, I'm so glad that you remember that.
Yeah.
Because I do, as you know and you witness, we do have people that come in and they come in and want to just get out of the block, and then they leave.
Yeah.
But then you have those that really sit in and like, okay, if nothing else is working, let me
Yeah.
try this. Let me figure this shit out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always tell you guys, if I don't have the answer, I'll figure out an answer. But I'm not just going to shoot something out my ass and say this. You know what I mean? And I just try to keep it as real as possible with you ladies, even with my males
Yeah.
as well. And because we always tend to live live in our shame, especially depending on our journey. And we live in this illusional life that we try to plant for ourselves. Like you're explaining, if I did everything outside, then everything was going to be okay, knowing I was hurting inside.
Yeah.
So we weren't being truthful to who we were, but we were trying to just paint this beautiful picture, but really what we were doing was hurting so much inside.
Yeah.
So being incarcerated for X amount of years, or so many times that we can't seem to count, what seemed to not work for you to continue to not go back into incarceration? So as you're in incarceration, they give you programs,
Mhm.
and then you release. What was it that didn't stick? Was it that you didn't really get it, or I don't know. I'm always curious, and I'm curious because I don't know if there should be a shift in certain programs that they
The whole
did have.
system.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
that's a whole nother topic. We could talk about it, which we
Yeah.
don't have the time. But I think I should go back to you about it, is because to hear the voice of somebody who's been incarcerated multiple times, what would you like to see in there? What do you think would actually help other inmates in there instead of the same programs? So us as Virginia Community Yoga is not, I'm not out there bashing programs or anything, but hearing a voice of somebody who is now released out of that system, what can your voice actually could give back to that community of like, what we could really help is X, Y, and Z. And right now, I feel like our world and our thinking pattern is changing. Everybody's, with
Yeah.
this whole COVID and losing jobs, a sense of loss. So how can we gain this sense of loss back and being more powerful? Our world is clashing in a sense. And so how can we make it more powerful and unite and bringing a bridge from one community to the other to see eye to eye? So what is it about, I guess let's just start with the first question. What was it about, I guess, the programs that you've been through that didn't seem to help? Was it even also where you weren't just ready for it, or you just didn't
Yeah.
get it? Or
I have to say that there's not a lot of wrong with programs.
mm-hmm.
Okay. There's, some things could be tweaked and changed, and that's a growing process.
Yeah.
I will say, for me, and honestly, it wasn't that I wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
It was that I was not spiritually fit
Right.
inside. And it has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with, looking up or out. It was, I couldn't look inside.
Mm.
be okay with that. So it was an individual thing with me.
Yeah.
I'm still working on how to help other people. Right now, I'm involved in some service work myself with a 12-step group, and I'm a pen pal,
Yeah.
corrections correspondence.
Awesome.
I'm the head of that, and that helps me to heal myself also, but to let people know, just like what we're doing here. I tell everyone all the time, yoga changed my life. And that was because I was able to be okay with the stillness inside, and to be okay with everything going on around me, and to still focus and center, without getting too much into the practice and all of that, and to help other people. I don't know okay, my experience inside was when someone treated me, and I'm talking about the authorities, when they treated me like a person,
Yeah.
and not an inmate. And that's, I got that in Norfolk Jail. I was treated as a person. Something inside of me never wanted to go to Norfolk Jail. Don't know why. And I think it was just that other side, because my whole experience was good. I'm grateful for being arrested.
I also have to comment that they're amazing system, thinking out of the box of even allowing what we do, Virginia Queen Yoga does, and taking that chance on us.
Yeah.
So I have to do claps to the programs out there.
Yeah.
The only one I know is Norfolk City Jails, and opening up that box and trying these things here and there. I know there's other systems, other cities that are slowly getting into that, and whatnot. And so I want to, those that are from Norfolk City Jails or know anybody in there, hands down to definitely the programs there, making the shift where it needs to, being that lead, I guess, in the Hampton Roads area of allowing things new into the programs, which is awesome. So I love them. I love, and you're absolutely right, is that being the volunteer, they talk to me in this very respectful way of like, okay, yeah, all right, you got this. Let's try this, and so, even the authorities there, goofy as can be.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of funny ones.
Yeah, and they just mess around and play around. And I know many of them were like, hey, when can you teach us yoga? I'm like, I would love to, but I'm here for my other students. But anyways, so with that, so that was the first question. The second question is there anything that you would suggest about as a somebody that's been in multiple times, that programs that could be in there to all, like, we should be in place, like a requirement kind of thing? And we could get back to that question too. I mean, like,
as far as being a requirement, for all, that's not going to work. The willingness has to be there. Even if it's a misguided willingness, if it's just to get out of the block. Some people are going to get something from it, and not everybody. I don't have everything together. I am doing well.
Cooking classes in there.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I've seen some, like, some places, other countries do this, and other facilities do this with that are outside Virginia, and they do like cooking classes. They do hands-on technical stuff, working with animals coming in and whatnot. Growing the program, I guess, in an alternative way. That's what I guess where I'm getting at, is growing this program in an alternative way to heal trauma through hands-on absorbing the mind kind of thing.
Life skills too.
Mhm.
I get where you're going with that. Like as for a city or county jail, there the security is maximum in there. So that's why I said, yeah, right about cooking classes. But in prison, people are classified a little
Yeah, no,
differently. So
I got you.
yeah, that definitely. There's so many programs
There is.
to be able to take, and yoga is pivotal for just relaxing and being able to um, quench that anxiety
Yeah.
it that is there because of the situation.
You're welcome.
Um,
No, you're
you
right.
know,
Do
we're
you feel that yoga or balance your life class should be in all the jail systems or the prison? And
you're asking me, or yes, I do.
well, if you can step out of
I have pictured that.
the box of the word yoga,
Mm-hmm.
the whole, because I mean, you've been there for 2 semesters with me. The whole what I teach and whatnot, or Virginia Yoga teaches, if you remove the word yoga or meditation, but the actions that we were doing, like mindful movement,
Mm-hmm.
sitting in stillness, breathing, would you feel that would be beneficial? But even with the other main programs that programs offers, the main classes like GED class and
Yeah,
the other classes, that do you feel like this class should be like right next to that in a sense?
absolutely. Because these are basic things that we all take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Our breath, our being mindful of the things that we are doing, and even as far as brushing our teeth or
Mm-hmm.
putting something down,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and sitting in stillness. These things are basic human things that
Yeah.
we take for granted
You're
and
absolutely
are not mindful of. And so without these things, that's where all of these anxieties come in, and the depressions, and
and
um
like the movement, allowing the movement to push all those feelings. Because, in our class,
exact
we talk about our past, we talk about our traumas and how to work it out of the system, out of our own body system in a safe place. So in our mind, we could be thinking of that time of when I used or when I was really down in the dumps, and we speak upon it, then we move it out of the system,
exactly, because our bodies are connected
Mm-hmm.
directly to our minds, but we disconnect somehow.
Right.
And so our bodies, my body remembers everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it will start to react before my mind catches up to it.
Yeah.
So without being mindful
Yeah.
of what is happening in my body, if I'm getting this euphoric recall over a song,
Yeah. Yeah.
or driving down the road in a place, and
Mm-hmm.
what is happening, and why.
Yeah.
So now I'm able to make that connection
Beautiful.
and to be mindful of it, and it's okay that I don't have to keep seeking that feeling. I can get that again some other way.
Yeah. Awesome. So during the class, was there any time where you felt like you couldn't absorb the information, um, or what kept you from doing the practices? Was there seem like a clash between the conditioning of what you knew and this
Hmm.
new thing that kind of made sense, and like your upbringing of religion, insecurities, or
Yeah,
whatever, and coming and making this bridge, but there was still this disconnect? Can you like kind of talk about that? Because I know you mentioned it before, again, we talked about, what you were brought up, your religion as, and whatnot, and how at one point in your life that God given up on you, which he doesn't give up on you at all. He's always there,
Always there.
constantly.
Yes.
He's just giving you more, like, look, this is what you asked for, so you need to see it on your two eyes. If
maybe you'll get it this way.
Yeah. And if you don't see it this way, I'm going to give it to you again in another way. So at any time in our practice that you felt like this clash into the body, and can you kind of explain that of, again, the conditioning of growing up and now this new beginning that you're thinking for yourself, that you're starting to answer the question, who am I?
What comes to mind is the thought that I had. I remember having, is this, because it felt so right, and it was so peaceful. I was thinking, okay, well, I'm new to this. Is this going to go against everything that I've learned? Is this teaching going to go against, is this going to be cult-like? Is this going to be, something that goes against my belief system that I've learned? And as time went on, it didn't. It connected, and it helped me to see my religion better.
Yes.
It gave me a whole different look. It was like I can look down on it now at it and being over, what I'm like it was heavy on top of me.
You were being a witness of
a witness. Okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah, so it gave me clarity.
Right.
The more that I practiced and the more that I sought this teaching, and I didn't feel like I was cheating on God at all. Whereas, doing alcohol and drugs, I felt like I was cheating on God.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't depending on him.
Yeah. Because I think in the class, we had a lot of people, because we have people from different religions that come in the class. And I try to never, I don't think I ever would ever say anything how yoga was a religion. I would always tell you guys it's not a religion. What it's going to do is strengthen anything that you believe in. And it's going to make it strong. And it's going to just question. Even the things that you did believe in, it makes you question it. And it's okay to question. You should question life, because the more you question, the more you dive deeper to who you really are and what life that you really want to live, and whatnot. And I was always open to anybody asking questions of this, and that. And I always said, if I didn't know the answer, I'd try to find it out, or we'll figure it out together,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of people have that, is even without yoga, again, if you didn't have the class and whatnot, but if there was another program in there that was similar to what we were teaching, it's the conditioning of the brain, and reconditioning it. Just like drugs and alcohol, it's conditioned to wake up in the morning and do your addiction, and then you go into classes, you get locked up. Now you have to recondition the brain, because you're not going to have the addiction the next morning.
No,
because you're in lockup. So it is, and it's a lifetime thing, because every step of the way of our life is a transformation. It's a transition from being a child, from being a baby to a child, to a teenager, to an adult, and so on and so forth, and to retirement. So we're always evolving, we're always changing, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And
questioning. Yeah.
There is no, the end is death. That's, and so every day is new, and like you said, evolving, and just adding to life.
Yeah.
Every day.
So I guess in the sense, the next question, I guess you kind of answer the questions, that knowing that you did 2 semesters of the class, like painting the picture for the audience of your experiences from, I guess, before, the feelings that you had before you even entered the class, until that class met.
I did it again.
Whoop! Oh, they're all
Oh
falling.
my gosh.
You just leave them down.
I'm gonna move. Here we go.
They're all just so
Trying
if you
to sit up straight.
sit in your yoga position. Yeah, I can remember when I first taught and the first class and even that first week, having you guys sit on blocks on the floor. All the cussing under the tongue I would get. Like, what the hell you want me to do? And then so like, and how you guys evolved after 3 months. Like, it was just amazing to me, but hopefully amazing to yourself. So can you kind of like paint that picture for us? And even though we kind of went through it, but like in your perspective of before, how did you feel before you even jumped into the class? I jumped into the class because of curiosity. This
right.
is interesting. Because you were really a fit person before, just, working out here and there.
I thought
right?
I was.
Yeah.
I thought I was. See, that's what I was going to get to. I thought I was fit and strong and, had a lot of energy. But with the postures and sitting and with the discipline, I realized that I had way more inside of me, more energy. And I was able to I'm 50. And I've a lifetime of doing things the same way. I used to work out by punishing my body, taking all the pain and the hurt of life experiences and punishing my body with it. And with the yoga, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
It was more of a relaxing. So it was all around healing for me. And by the end of the first semester, I was starting to challenge myself of more difficult postures, and I was getting it. Each day it builds on itself, and then there's the ego of I want to be there, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just you can't do that.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
Can you tell? Well, I never even asked you this. What was a memorable teaching time, I guess you could say, during those 2 semesters that or maybe the first semester, second semester, maybe you have more than one memorable moment, maybe aha moment kind of thing. If you could.
I think the most moving class was I don't remember what it was called. And it was the first semester, I know that. I think most of my memorable sessions were from the first semester because it was so new. This was a healing class, I believe. We talked about the different energy areas, the chakras, if you will, of our bodies. And it was the sacral chakra. And we were meditating. And I know that you did not say anything profound or anything that was strange or anything like that. But I know that I was open to healing, and I remember the tears falling. And it was like I was open then to healing and to letting go of pain. I think the classes that led up to that were about us as women and where we hold our pain. That was the most memorable one. I'll never forget that. It was
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's always seemed to be a lot of breakthroughs during the classes, especially when we go through the map of our chakras and whatnot and what resonates to us. And, when we come to the throat chakra and we start oming and chanting and all.
Hmm.
I've had people break down in that moment of finding their voice, finding their vibration. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. You know,
Yes.
um, so now that you are released, and you've been released for how long?
Well, when I was released from Norfolk, I went straight to North Carolina because that's where I lived, and I owed them some time. So I went there, came home for 30 days, and then I had to go back for 60. So technically, I've been out since December 20th
Mm-hmm.
of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
My original incarceration date was September 9th of 2018. So, and I met you in October of 2018. So since I've been home, what it was the question?
Um, just because now that you're home, what seems to be the challenges for you? Because in our classes we talk about challenges. I mean, even some of our
Yeah.
yoga poses, they're challenging. And so how we've overcome that in our classes. Now you're out here in the world, not in the strict nature of jail or prison. And so there's a lot of challenges involved. And how has that your yoga practice helped you in that? How's it prepared you for the outside world?
um, how has it prepared me for the outside world?
Well, I know that. Okay, so I know
It's
once you were released,
mm-hmm.
and I always tell everybody in class, when you are released and you want to continue the practice, you come
Yeah.
kneel down to me, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what you did.
I did. Yeah.
And then you started continuing your practice at a local studio that
Mm-hmm.
sponsored you, and you know, you kind of because the biggest thing for Virginia Queen Yoga and any of our bridge projects is not only teaching in a certain population and just teaching and then saying peace out after 3 months.
Right.
It's really, how can my students sustain this practice knowing that you're going back to the community that you're already conditioned to know? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And and I always say to you guys, how can you guys now be this light when you thought you were living in darkness? How can now you have these certain tools? And of course, more than 3 to 6 months, you need more tools, but you got the basics. And
Mm-hmm.
now, you know, I always push you guys to now be this light for your community, you know. And so I know when you got released, you had to do time in North Carolina, but then started doing yoga at this local yoga studio, and you continued this practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I know even myself, those that haven't been incarcerated or whatever, whoever's seeing this video, every day is a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we live in depression, and that could be a challenge. It could be a challenge of just feeling lost. A COVID time, a lot of people lost their job
Yeah.
and whatnot. So in your yoga practice, when you feel like everything seems to be caving in on you, what tends to pull you out of that? What tends to pull you out of your challenges?
The first thing is to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Very first thing. I had a challenging week last week, a challenging day, and I won't go into the details, but it was very emotional. There was a lot of powerlessness, and with what I've learned through the teaching
Mm-hmm.
in jail, I got a lot of my teaching in jail. I will say that. What I learned in jail was, first of all, to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
and second of all, to know, okay, it's not about me. Okay, it's not about. It's how I can respond.
So you're analyzing the situation.
Yes, and being mindful of everyone else involved.
Yeah.
um, and just letting go of feeling the hurt, letting it go,
So
not
the
holding
nonviolent,
on.
yeah, the nonviolent communication that we were teaching in there, and
Yes.
not bringing violence to yourself, and how can everybody in that group remain at ease, But number one thing is for you to remain in peace, and it's the way you explain it. It's beautiful, is because even some people have been doing yoga for quite a while don't understand what us yogis would say, being the witness of your body, being the
Hmm.
witness of you, you know, and recognizing. So normally we won't recognize, and we would always blame. We always have this victim story or blame game and all this other stuff. For you to take your yoga practice even deeper, not, and I always told you, yoga is more than just yoga poses and bending like a
Yeah.
pretzel, right? But you took it deeper, where you were recognizing and analyzing. You're recognizing how you feel in the situation. You're analyzing all ways or all situations in that moment. And yes, breathing is number one, because your breath always tells you what the hell's going on with you, right? Like, I'm
Yes.
pissed. I am not breathing right now. I'm feeling anxiety. But to recognize is that step of being the witness of the body, of yourself, and how your energy is moving, and how you are making how it feels, and what it is it's acknowledging
Hmm.
you,
Hmm.
your number one star player, yourself. Acknowledge,
Right.
this is how I'm feeling right now. Let me step away. Let me just walk away, because obviously the other person, one, hasn't had the tools that you were given,
Hmm.
but being the bigger person out of this whole thing and just analyzing it, coming back to the situation if needs so. So that's beautiful. It's beautiful, because I think that's the biggest challenge. It's not necessarily physical every day of a challenge for some. It's the mental challenge that we face
Hmm.
every damn day. And I
Yeah.
can only imagine being released out of incarceration and having that challenge. Who's going to give me an opportunity?
Hmm.
Knowing I have a thick record, like that thick, who's going to give me this opportunity? Because I'm more than being an inmate. I'm more than an orange jumpsuit. I'm more than a
Hmm.
drug addict. I'm more da 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 da. That's past. That's no longer titles anymore,
No.
you know? So that is amazing. So every day it's been, having that challenge, and to witness that. And now you've blossomed. How is your yoga practice now? I know the studio you're going to shut down, and hopefully something will go into its place, but
Hmm.
how is it now?
My asana practice is not as frequent as I would love. And that's because I live in a house, with my niece's family. And so I do get up earlier than everyone else. And yeah, it's going great. And I use videos. I have a couple of flows that you sent me. And yeah, and I I feel like if I'm doing a video though, that I'm more committed,
Yeah.
because I will look at the chart. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-mm.
so if I
Yeah.
have a video and I'm doing it with somebody, then um, I'm more committed to
Yeah,
it.
and it's
Um,
hard. It's hard for myself to even do a flow. I mean, in the morning
mm,
I'll do a stretch. It really getting my body flowing a bit, even if it's hip circles and reaching up into
yes.
the sky. That's my yoga practice. I think what you've really used your yoga practice is what I've when I go into the jails, um, I have no expectations, but what you've shown and proved to yourself, in a sense, and it's still a learning
Hmm.
process, yoga is always learning, is that
Lifetime.
yeah, you took it and healed a part of yourself, and you took it to control, in a sense, your mental health,
Hmm.
in a sense. And so you took it where I wanted you to, why I teach what I teach. It wasn't, I bring you guys in to coach you in through the physical, but then realizing how your mental body and physical body work together.
Yeah.
And how that healing process began. And you've definitely been the student who's come out and used your yoga practice to not necessarily the highest form, because we're all still going to that highest form. We're not going to be gurus in the Himalayas or anything and meditating in the cold. But
I've thought about it. But yeah.
But you've taken it, and you take your challenges that are given to you every day. And I feel like you've taken these challenges and don't look at it as a negative thing. You've looked at it as gratitude for another learning lesson to have.
Yes, you're exactly right. I wrote that down. I did, because I had some notes.
You did? You're so awesome. I love you. Melinda, I got to say, you're one of the students, because, I always gave homework, and I said, I'm not going to pressure y'all. I want you to feel like you want to heal this. And you've always been that. I'll share.
Third.
Yeah, I'll share. You were always at the end of the class, giving people opportunity to be the teacher instead of me being the teacher, and you stepped up to the plate and taught a class, and it was excellent. If you remember that time,
I do. Yeah. I was a little lost. You helped though. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was beautiful because you empowered yourself amongst all your peers, and it wasn't making anybody feel any way, but to be in a place that you were before all of this, not feeling empowered, to seeing you be empowered because of your will, because I want to do this, because this is the time now. Now I'm getting it. Now I'm getting where God is always with me, and that he's never failed me, and that doing these classes saw how deep I'm in love with God, and in whatever I got brought up to believe in religion wise, is that it just made it even more concrete for you.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
it was my perception of God was wrong, because I wasn't open. So the way it was closed off.
Right. Yeah. So
I just trust that the universe is not against me anymore.
Thank you for saying that. The universe is not working against you. It's working.
That's how I
for
felt
you.
all the time. I felt like, oh my gosh, so challenges now are different. It's more like, okay, what can I learn from this? Just like you said. So
exactly.
I just wanted to say that.
Everybody has to look at it that way. If it's a challenge, it's a learning lesson. Just quickly say it's a learning lesson. What do I need to know? God, what are you telling me? Universe, what are you telling me? Tuning into that is very, very important. So, we've pretty much gone through most of, it all flowed right into your transformation. Obviously, just hearing your story, we see the transformation. You do not look 50 at all. You look so young. We got on this morning. I'm like, damn, girl, you look gorgeous. And I'm like, all I did was wash my face.
That's all you have to do, though. Yeah.
But before we do end this, what motivates you to wake up every morning?
I took this question seriously because I did, y'all, I had the questions ahead of time. It's only fair. So what motivates me? And I had to think about that. And I'm like, what motivated me this morning? Because I try to stay in the day now, and I try to stay in the moment. And I'll have to say that the sunrise, I love sunrises. The birds, I have bird feeders right outside my window. Laughter, I look forward to the day and knowing that the people that I choose to be in my life, we're going to laugh. Learning, we talked about that. I look forward to learning. I do. Now, I'm not saying that I just go through every situation and be like, oh yeah, this happened. No, they affect me. I feel the feelings. And that's the thing. I feel the feelings. I don't stay stuck in them anymore.
Yeah.
I just feel them. And that, because that's what they're there for. So
Right.
I don't know what else there is to learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wrote, it's not always cupcakes and rainbows,
Yeah.
but I'm not afraid of the day anymore.
It's a new day to
That's,
start over kind of thing.
yeah, I used to have a constant fear. Even if it was a great morning, I woke up, you just wake up in a great mood, fear would always come in.
Yeah.
And I see it before it comes now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's it. I'm
Beautiful.
not afraid anymore.
Beautiful. And that's amazing, because fear could keep you in a box.
It does.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
I missed a question. I think this is a very important question. What advice do you have to those that have an addiction, regardless of what it is, even if it's addiction to chocolate cake every morning?
Yeah.
What is your advice to those that feel like everything falls on their shoulders, that they feel like nobody cares, that they live in shame and guilt and all this? From your experiences and your own used to be perspectives, what good advice do you have for them? And this is pretty hard because you have so many advice. It's hard to pull yourself out. So,
Exactly. The first thing I would say is getting to a point of being willing to ask for help is key. But I want to talk about my practice and how it's helped me. The discipline has helped me, because being still in meditation, um, and just being conscious of my breath again helps me to pause.
mm,
Um, Before I go eat that donut, which I can't have because I'm gluten free,
mhm,
because it makes me sick, but I want it.
mhm.
I want it. I love donuts. So I have to breathe, and not necessarily, I don't have to weigh the consequences or anything like that. I just have to breathe and pause.
Mhm.
My advice to someone, okay, we're talking about addiction, not just wants or desires.
No,
Addictions.
addictions.
First of all, breathe. Feel that pain. Don't let it dominate. Don't let the emotions dominate your life and your thoughts. Meditation has taught me to be still and to know that my compulsive thoughts don't have to be my compulsive actions, that
Mhm,
I can just pause, and thoughts are just thoughts.
mhm,
Feelings are just feelings. They don't control.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so, and to be willing to ask for help and to take the help, and not to think that you have to do it on your own.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of support. I've got you. I've got other people. I've got a sponsor. I've got friends. I've got family.
Yeah.
And I'm letting these people in. I'm being vulnerable.
Mhm.
Um, because unless I'm willing, I was vulnerable. I was willing to be vulnerable to someone I did not know, to give my money to every day, and to bring me back something that I would think would do its job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm learning to be vulnerable in other ways.
Yeah. But still remain powerful, to empower
Yes,
yourself.
the vulnerability gives me power.
Yeah.
Um, exactly.
Because I feel personally, and I think as most people, is that when you are vulnerable and you talk about it, but you stand firm in who you are, that it's no longer me, that now you're not erasing the past, but um, you are not erasing past, but you're learning to let go. You will
Hmm.
always remember the past, but
Hmm.
you shifted the energy of it, meaning that it's not going to happen again. And to those that have been on a good stroll with life, and I haven't, used, and if you do use, it's not it's not about you falling off the train of wellness. It's about, what are you going to do? How are you going to look at it if you do? How are you going to pick yourself up? So it's, and then it goes back to, you have help. There's many people, even some strangers, that are in this kind of field of trauma work, or just to get people on that good path, that there are people like that, you know. And I have to say, they're like angels, you know. I've met so many people in my past who I'm like, I didn't really knew that you really cared, but it's like they really do care, you know. And I think that is the nature of a human being or a soul, is to have that service and helping, you know, in a sense. So, you know, I didn't ask you, Melinda, was, have you ever taken yoga before you came into class? No, okay.
No.
And
Never.
I guess in a sense, I guess that's a testimonial, and like how yoga can, or mindful movement or mindful meditation, how can it shift a your perspective and and whatnot. So before we do end, do you have anything you would like to leave to those that may struggle with life, or our audience? A mantra, a prayer, a saying, something that's gotten you through the day, every time you feel like there's a challenge involved, or anything that when you were incarcerated that kept you going, you know?
Yeah, I do.
Maybe more than one, so.
I do. I have two, actually,
Okay.
that I can think of right off the top of my head. In jail and now, I still use it. It's a Zen proverb that, let go or be dragged. And that can apply to everything. If I don't let go of my addiction, I will be dragged. If I don't let go of that pain, I will be dragged through the gravel. Letting go of material things. You know, I can have wants and desires, but hanging on to them, that's very disappointing when they're not fulfilled.
Yes. Did I teach that in yoga class?
You led up to it for sure.
Yeah. Because I remember we did talk about wants and desires and understanding that and whatnot. And so, anyways, go ahead.
It's not that I, I want to be desireless. No, then I wouldn't be alive. But the next thing I want to say is something that was so very moving in our affirmations that we would do weekly, and how you would go around to each one of us and we would each say that affirmation, and it would just land perfectly on everyone how it was. But the first time that I tried to say this, I was reading it and couldn't even get it out without choking. Literally was, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. That I can say today. It may not be 100% true, but I can say it today with some honesty. As much as I have today, I can say it, and I can say it without choking. So that's what I want to leave with people who are struggling.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's it.
Really beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember that moment in that class, affirmations, and I would tell you guys, because some of you guys would be soft spoken, or just say it, and I would tell you guys, find that power from within, draw it from the belly all the way to the heart, to the voice, and say it. And I do remember that time. I do.
It was real.
It was real. And that was the thing, was that in the classes, I've always said, just to be real, because all you're doing is being real to yourself. There's no reason to be judged. Nobody should be having any judgment of anybody in this class. Guess what? We're all in lockup. You know what I mean? So, you all were dealing with the same of being in lockup, not with family, figuring shit out. And I have to say, it's a true honor for me every time I step in there and be able to teach, is because at the same time I heal a part of my own trauma.
Yeah.
Because I do feel at times that people, even in my yoga community, that don't know my background, there was a shame.
Yeah.
Until I became that prison yoga teacher, until I started going into the jails and hearing my own voices. I shouldn't be ashamed. These are my worlds, and I'm going to bridge it together. And really, at the end, I was like, I don't give a fuck what anybody's going to say, because this is my life.
Yeah.
And every morning I wake up is a new beginning. And I'm so proud of you, Melinda. I mean, after this whole, when you got released and stuff, we did so much things together. You met my family. You met a
Beautiful.
new community. Seen your family, your niece, and your kids, and you're on that path, man. And I'm so proud of you, man. I always would just say, because another thing is that those that are watching this, we try to, Virginia Community Yoga is all about sustainability. And what we offer, if the students come out and they could dedicate a certain number of classes to themselves, that Virginia Community Yoga will find a scholarship for them to become yoga teachers themselves. I truly believe, and this is my personal opinion, is that those that have a rough life become the best teachers.
Yes, I agree.
The experiences, and you just keep shit real. Life is not always cupcakes and rainbow sprinkles. It's not. If it was, then we wouldn't learn shit. So I am full gratitude for all of my challenges in life. And I just, like I said, Melinda, I'm so thankful that you jumped on and said yes. You said yes to get into that yoga class. You said yes that I'm ready to heal. And you said yes, I deserve it. And you said it yes to yourself and not nobody else. And and I'm thankful you continue your practice on a very higher level than just physical and whatnot. And so thank you so much.
I am grateful for you. Don't say thank you.
Yeah.
I am grateful for you. I have to get this in there that I am so grateful for what you're doing and your passion for people. And it's not about yoga. It's not about money. It's not about, the tight yoga pants. It's nothing like that. I am grateful for you to bring that teaching to me, to open my eyes to be able to seek healing and forgiveness. And my niece just brought me some food.
Aww. I know we're going on 2 hours.
That's sweet. So yeah, and I love this, that we could get together like this, and it's raw and it's unedited, and I am so glad to spend time with you.
Yes, it's COVID time. Yeah. I'm gonna come see you. Before we do leave, I don't know if you want to put your where you're working at to get more clients, or if they want to follow you on Instagram or anything like that. Because people that see it probably would love that support or hear from you, or whatever. That's up to you if you want to or not.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to put it out there since it's going to go on social media, but yeah, I work in Norfolk at a hair salon. You can check me out, message me, Melinda Ireland, on Facebook anytime. My Instagram is kind of skinny, so for now. But yeah, thanks for that
She does,
opportunity. I
yes,
would
she
never
does
have asked for
amazing everything, guys. I'm just letting
that.
you know. I do need to come see you. So again, I want to say thank you. If you guys, anybody is watching this, want to be involved in some way, somehow, we do have a website. It's virginiacommunityyoga.org. We have a donation button. We have gear if you guys want to promote, or not necessarily promote, but purchase gear, and all the money is 100% goes to Virginia Community Yoga to continue our bridge projects. So our bridge project we have now is a prison jail project. We do have a youth project, but we have other bridge projects in place. The best way right now is helping with funding so we could actually have a physical space where our students that come out of incarceration have a place to go, start a new community, families from at-risk populations. Sky's the limit. So right now is trying to get that seed money to find that physical space to continue this in our community, and help each other grow and heal, and not have any more division,
Yeah.
and whatnot. So again, Melinda, I want to say thank you, and I hope to see you soon.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Call me girl.
okay, well, thank you
Yeah.
everybody who's joined, and ciao.
I love you.
Love you, girl. Hey, so I just
Yeah.
stopped recording. Oh, did I stop? Oh, wait, let me stop.